Hi everyone, Sane Man here. This video is brought to you by a donation from Elijah, and he does a reoccurring Patreon donation each month, and wanted to say this briefly, and I quote, "Hi Sandman, thanks for the video. I don't have a subject. You can post on whatever you want or just catch up on other requests." Well Elijah, thanks for your donation. The title of this video appears to be rather self-explanatory. First I'll read a short story from a guy called From Just a Man about the son that he'll never have, and then I'll do the female version. So here's what From Just a Man has to say, and I quote, "Hey boy, I wish I had the chance to get to know you. You were never born, never existed, but I think of you often. I dream of the times where I could look upon you and see a beaming smile, your blue eyes shining in the sunlight. You may not be real, but I know that I love you all the same. I want to take you outside to play catch, to push you on the swings and take you to Grandpa's to go fishing. I want to be there for your scraped knees and bumps and bruises. I want to lose my given name and replace it with Daddy. I wish I could have a chance to buy you a bicycle, help you take off the training wheels. I wish I could buy you a car and get nervous as you peeled out of the driveway. I would love to be told he looks just like you, or that's your son all right. To watch you score touchdowns and hit home runs, to watch you play with your friends in your little garage band, to have the privilege to watch you grow into a man. But this will never happen, it can never be. You can never be a reality. I can't bring you into this world simply because I cannot find a woman that is fit to be your mother. I can't find a woman who's willing to work with me to provide you with a happy and proper home to grow into. I refuse to let your mother be a manipulator whose master plan is to take you away from me. I refuse to bring you into a world where the cards are stacked against you, where by merit of being a man you become a public enemy. The world has changed these last few years. It has changed in ways that no child should actually have to grow up in. War is coming both at home and from far away. You do not exist not because of fear, but because of love. For I love you too much to willingly put you into harm's way. Even if you were here by the time you become a man, I will be gone. I cannot protect you from those who would do harm to you just for fun. And this is why you will never be. Love just a man." Unquote. So after reading that touching story, I thought to myself, what better way to discuss it than to make the female version of that? So here goes, and I hope that everyone enjoys it. "Hey boy, I wish I had the chance to get to know you, but no one told me that I couldn't get pregnant at the ripe old age of 45. Life isn't fair. I'm sorry I'll never be able to turn you against your own father and tell you how he abandoned us, even though I was the one that broke up the relationship, then got sole custody in the divorce, and moved away to a place far from his work so it's inconvenient for him to ever visit, and he doesn't even know where we live. I'm sorry I'll never be able to shame you into getting married and support another woman, even though I'll belittle any woman that you marry, and claim that she's never good enough for you. Dear son, I'm sorry I won't be able to dress you up in gender-neutral clothing, so you don't even know what gender you are, so someday you might actually choose to be a girl instead of a boy, because I've always wanted a daughter, and dressing you up like a girl is punishment for being born a boy. I'm sorry I was never pregnant with you because you would have made a cute fetus. I could have made some cute molded prints from your tiny aborted baby feet to share with family and friends. Yes, that's currently the trend. Sorry son, but my career as a jack-in-the-box HR department manager, and my 3 cats were more important than you. So were my vacations and fancy dinners at the Sizzler. I'm sorry I'll never get a chance to have the customary mother-son dance at your wedding, because all that added attention would be really helpful when I reach the age when my jugs are low to the ground and polish the floor. I'm sorry you won't be there to share your secrets with me so I can go gossip to the girls and teach you a lesson that you can never share anything important with your mother, because I just have no way to keep it a secret. Dear son, I'm really sorry I never had you because I could have used the expectant mother parking or the parking for women with toddlers at the mall. These spots are especially handy during the Christmas season, as I would have basically wheeled you around the mall with me, exposing you to all kinds of wonderful pathogens during cold and flu season. I'd also get sorry if I took you to IKEA and forgot that you were in the kids area and I left to go home without you. Think of that experience as something you missed out on, because it's something we could have laughed together about for many years to come. I'm sorry that I couldn't possibly do a better job raising you than the television, and that my version of home cooking is Nutella on Wonder Bread. But look on the bright side. At least the bread only expired a week ago. I'm sorry I dropped you off at daycare at the age of 1 and went back to Jack-in-the-Box while you felt abandoned by me and had to vomit in a Jack-in-the-Box at daycare. I'm sorry I didn't help you with your schoolwork and you didn't become a doctor. And I'm really sorry about that one because then I won't be able to bum money off you someday for my brandy habit. I'm sorry I had guys in and out of the house while you were growing up, and some of them abused you. It's not my fault because how was I supposed to know that a guy wearing a trench coat was a bad guy? I'm sorry that I fed you junk food for all your favorite years, and then you died in your early 40s because of a heart attack. But look on the bright side. At least no one thought we were poor even though I was bringing home Jack-in-the-Box meals every day from work. I'm sorry about that one time I baked bread with the culture of my very own yeast at your 18th birthday. Sorry to embarrass you. I'm sorry, son, that I used you as an emotional tampon when I became too old enough for any good man out there to find me attractive anymore. Thanks for never being born, sucker. So there you have it, folks. The contrast between the masculine and the feminine. In today's world, as a man, you aren't capable of protecting your son from a bad woman, bad legal systems, and a gynocentric government. If you have a daughter, you won't be able to protect her from herself. But if you're a woman and you have kids, the odds are pretty good that you won't be able to protect them from yourself. While at first that letter to the son I'll never have was actually kind of depressing, it actually isn't. It just shows us how men are willing to give up the love they experience from both women and from fatherhood when society doesn't have their best interests in mind. While in this case, the woman's perspective I wrote about depicts her getting an abortion. Yet most women are selfish enough to become single mothers and not be able to provide the physical, emotional, and spiritual resources a child needs to find his way into the world with. What does it say when a man shows more love by not having a child than actually having one? I think we all need to remember that popular line that goes a little bit something like this, and I quote, "Hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times," unquote. So it's clear that we're here in the phase where the weak soy boy buffoons in our society are about to create those hard times in that particular quote. So if times are hard, that doesn't mean you as a man are being selfish having a child through something like surrogacy. Having a child in hard times means that child is going to have a lot of character development because he's going to have to learn to cope with more stressors than the men before him. He might have to deal with the world where he might be failing constantly, not because of his own irresponsibility or buffoonery, but because of the world that he finds himself in. As a man, when the chips are stacked against me, I don't fold like a cheap suitcase. Instead, I get creative and try to think of new ways to get out of the pickle that I find myself in. I'm sure that most men feel the exact same way, especially if they were deprived during their childhood and didn't have the best hand of cards dealt to them in life. Just because sometimes we as men grow up in good times doesn't mean that those times are good for us. In fact, if you're a man that was born while there were good times around you, but you still have an awful life, you have character and strength that the white knights and cucks around you will never know. If all you've known in life is emotional or physical pain, then silly things like shame have absolutely no power over you. It's funny when people try to shame me and I see it for what it is, but they don't actually see that I know what they're doing. Shaming language works on today's men because they are weak, because they don't understand how to be strong because they've never lived through hard times. If I ever had a son, I wouldn't want him to go through strictly good times because I would be sadly disappointed in the man he would eventually become. He would most likely become lazy, spoiled, entitled, or even worse, a male feminist. Instead, I'd want him to suffer through something in life, to fail and struggle through things and use the resistance and hardship to bring about a value in his life. It takes a fine balance of hardship, but not too much hardship to make a great man. He has to be forged like a steel sword, but if the furnace is too hot, he's going to melt into a puddle of goo. But if he's not hard enough, he won't take shape properly to take on his opponents. How much hardship is too much and how much is too little? I'd say it depends on the individual male. So in that sense, you can't raise every man out there with the same amount or type of hardships. Every man is made of different material and can serve a different purpose. So in some ways, because every man has a different temperament and every man is born in slightly different surroundings, you can only see men as averages. If a society like ours that's about to face hard times breeds mostly weak men, then what we need to do if we ever actually have children is find those men that became strong in good times. And we need to basically use them as a sort of template for what hardships to present a man while he's growing up in good times. To break this vicious cycle, we need to learn how to breed strong men in good times instead of letting them get soft. I blame the parents because they don't understand that if you give your children the material abundance that you never had as a kid, those children will be ruined and they won't even turn into a shadow of their parents. I was really lucky growing up because my parents were really cheap and frugal, and as a result, I didn't get the material comfort that all the other kids around me received. Maybe that's the trick. Maybe to have a good son in bad times, a man needs to give him less than all the other kids around him to make him suffer and make him hungry in life. Give him an inferiority complex, he'll be far more likely to go out into the world and prove his worth. Sometimes just a man, we can't look at the lack of suffering in a child's life as a negative. Sometimes it could be the kick in the butt that he needs to go out there and make something of himself. Anyways, that's all I've got to say for today.